The recording is in progress. Bring up my notes and my
Oh
trivia
yeah, I have
first.
notes. I have notes. I don't have to put myself in the brain space of remembering this episode after filling my brain with space brain.
Right. Although actually I didn't take notes watching it last night. I because I did the notes like a month ago
Oh God.
because I had a test run for this,
How many
but
times do you watch these?
usually no more than two times. This is
Yeah.
one where I was like testing out something where I was like, I don't know if this person's gonna do it or not. So I gave him an episode way ahead of time, and it didn't work. So now we're doing
Oh.
it. That happens
Well,
sometimes.
that sounds like some of my friends.
Right. Well, yeah, that's, I mean, if like obviously I can call you and be like, hey, are you around tomorrow? The podcast comes out in 2 days. So you're on that
Mhm.
list. And then there's, list of people that, it's like eventually it's like maybe people I really like, but they aren't podcasters. So I'll give them like an episode in the distant future. So if we screw it up 2 times, that's still fine.
Yeah, there are actually some people who I've even offered podcast episodes to that I'm just like not going to ask again.
Right, right. I mean,
And
well,
I'm, nobody who you've met so far. But
right. Well, I'm like sometimes you're like, oh, this person talks well, but they actually do kind of have a thing where they actually don't really want to do it,
yeah.
because it is kind of like public speaking, I guess. I mean, you don't
Yeah,
actively have people listening to you; they hear you later. But
yeah, and it's yeah, a lot of people, and like one of my friends who would be great on the podcast just hasn't fucking followed up with me, and hopefully we get her on, but because she's for one thing, she's a woman, but I mean, enough
because
fucking woman guest stars. But
when I wake up in the morning, I have a podcast. My only thing I don't worry about the fact that I'm talking and it's going to be recorded and people are going to hear it. I'm more just like
yeah,
social anxiety, especially if it's someone I don't actually know.
yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've always been like excited about public speaking, but I have for most of my adult life. It's just you know, some people never will never really, and some people think they do and they really don't.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. They're like, oh, that sounds like fun, but when it's actually like let's make plans and do it, they're like, you know. But
Yeah, if they're
that's
freezing up all the time, it's like, yeah, you obviously don't actually want to be doing this. But
yeah. So not everyone is a podcaster, which is fine.
that's
Um,
good because there's too many already. A lot of
right.
people should quit.
Yeah, all you people should quit.
All
But
of our fucking competition needs to quit. Get out of here.
yeah,
Except for our friends. We're podcasting.
and podcasts I enjoy listening to, they can keep making theirs.
Yeah, that too. Or
Podcasts I used
some
to
case
enjoy listening to, should they quit? I don't listen to them now, but I used to.
they could probably quit.
What if it's archival? They already did quit, but it's still
Well, good
there.
for them.
Yeah.
Good. They don't have to delete their fucking
Good for
archives.
you for quitting. No, they have to
There are a
delete their
couple,
archives.
yeah, there are a couple I've quit, but most of the podcasts I listen to are either friends or friends of friends or Conan O'Brien. I guess that would be the person whose podcast and Questlove. Those are the people who I don't know.
Oh, there can't be more than 6 degrees of separation.
Well, actually, my the friends of friends that I mentioned are friends. The friends of friends are friends with Michael Che, who has been on both of those podcasts. So
See,
I
that's
technically
four
have
degrees of separation then?
I have like 4 degrees of
5.
separation with every single podcast that I listen to.
Right.
So, I mean, I bet Michael Che would be friends with me if I knew him. I bet
Maybe.
he'd be
But would
cool.
you want to be friends with him? You don't
I
know.
don't. I maybe not. I don't know.
Okay. We got to do this because we're.
I've heard things along those lines too.
Okay. We double heading, so I guess we need to start this one.
All right, ass to ass.
Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we delve into all the episodes of The Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here. On the other end's Mark. Hi, Mark.
I'm on. Hi, I'm on the other end.
He's on the other end. That's right. Um, you're as well as listeners may not know. There is kind of a formula to how I get the guests into the show. Mark is you're a plug-in guy, which hopefully you don't mind, which is often comedy episodes, but you're not getting a comedy episode today. Uh, it's young man's fancy. You fancy
It's the
fancy the
young
young
man.
man.
As in as an aging man who is unmarried, I'm glad that you didn't target me with this episode.
Oh yeah, you were not targeted with this episode.
And I think I'm the same age as the actor, even though he's playing
Oh
a
yeah,
34 year
I was
old.
about to say they called him 34, but yeah, the actor. Let's see, doing the math of 40 years. Yes, you're. It is in his early mid 40s, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spit take guessing there, but
Yep.
um, no, I mean this is kind of like, oh, this one hasn't been recorded yet. It's next week. It's time to call Mark, but
Whoop. Better hurry it up before we better get married to this episode
yeah.
before it
I
dies.
I did put your name on this actually at the beginning of the season, but that was just like I need to put a name here, and it was and your name hadn't been around for a while, so it ended up there. But yeah, no
Well, I think you
targets.
told me this. You told me that I was going to be doing this like 3 weeks ago. I don't know if that was just a coincidence, but
We just didn't get around recording until now, which is fine.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
um,
had the name. I didn't think it was going to be so unfancy. It wasn't a
yeah,
very fancy episode at all.
no, it's all in one house. I mean, it's not a one setter like some episodes have been, but yeah, they don't go outside the house, do they?
Nope.
Yeah,
Bottle
yeah. Even the
bottle
first,
episode.
even the yeah, bottle episode, even the first shot is them coming in the door. Do we even get an establishing shot? I guess
I
there's like a general like backlot house
yeah.
establishing shot, but
I think there's a the shot of the front porch at least, but
yeah,
I don't think it
because yeah,
counts.
that's I guess that's what you're seeing on screen while Serling's giving his endless prologue, which you will be
Yeah.
doing after my trivia.
Yep.
Original air date was May 11th, 1962. Script is by
Mother's
our.
Day,
Is it?
maybe. I don't know.
Actually, it's close. It is close. You look at that. 1962. When was Mother's Day? Okay.
Probably didn't
Script.
exist yet because Hallmark hadn't taken a stranglehold on American culture.
Come on.
Oh,
50s.
May
You must have.
13th. Yep.
This is a
Totally. It was
Mother's Day episode.
this was planned. Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
That actually makes me like this. I mean, I didn't dislike this episode, but I now like it twice as much because it's the Mother's
Yeah.
Day episode. Okay.
Yeah.
Script is by our high concept architect of mind bending weirdness, Richard Matheson. Sorry, that got into a bit of a wrestling intro there. Yeah, we like Matheson.
Yep.
Regular Twilight Zone director John Bram helmed this episode. Didn't feel like giving him the wrestling intro when I wrote this.
Hmm.
Phyllis Thaxter played Virginia Lane Walker. Her screen credits began with 1940s films such as 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and Blood on the Moon. But she may be best known now as Martha Kent in 1978's Superman. Alex Walker was Alex Nichol. They gave him the same name, so he wouldn't be confused. I don't know. He had a long career on Broadway before making the leap to film and television, where he appeared in plenty of westerns as well as 1958's The Screaming Skull. Well,
Yeah. I hope
there
it
is
did
a
that.
skull in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Wallace Rooney and Helen Brown played Mr. Wilkinson and Henrietta Walker, respectively. I could not track down much more info on them. They have the wiki names you cannot click. So,
Oh.
and I didn't have time for the IMDb. Sorry.
It's fine.
Nathan Scott composed this episode's music. Prolific in film and television, he also regularly scored for Dragnet and Lassie. Okay.
All right.
Take a nice deep breath. You said you're choosing a voice. I would advise caution on what voice you're choosing because this is maybe the second longest intro we've had. I think It's a Good Life has the longest, but this looks like it's coming close.
You're looking at the house of the late Mrs. Henrietta Walker. And this is Mrs. Walker herself, as she appeared 25 years ago. And this, except for isolated objects, is the living room of Mrs. Walker's house, as it appeared in that same year. The other rooms upstairs and down are much the same. This time, however, is... Sing it up. The time, however, is not 25 years ago, but now. The house of the late Mrs. Henrietta Walker is, you see, a house which belongs almost entirely to the past. A house which, like Mrs. Walker's clock here, has ceased to recognize the passage of time. Only one element is missing now, one remaining item in the estate of the late Mrs. Walker. Her son, Alex, 34 years of age, and up until 20 minutes ago, the so-called perennial bachelor. With him is his bride, the former Miss Virginia Lane. They're returning from City Hall in order to get Mr. Walker's clothes packed, make final arrangements for the sale of the house, lock it up, and depart on their honeymoon. Not a complicated set of tasks, it would appear, and yet the newlywed Mrs. Walker is about to discover that the old adage, "You can't go home again," has little meaning in the Twilight Zone.
Okay, so you made a choice, and at least half the listeners just hit their forward 30 seconds on their phone
Yes,
several
take that.
times. Honestly, that would have been perfect for next week's episode where we get Robo Grandma, and it's a very
Okay.
short intro.
Wow.
What can
Is
you do?
Twilight Zone kind of anti-grandma or anti-old lady?
It's a very sweet Robo Grandma next week.
Okay.
Not like
Because
this lady.
I checked. This is not written by the same writer as Long Distance Call.
Probably they have different manias, so
Yeah, the Long Distance Call is you can almost feel this episode telling you, hey, because she goes out of her way to say it's not me.
Sorry,
It's not me doing this. It's Alex doing this.
Long Distance Call. What for some reason you said that, which this might also be another relevant comparison. Is a Walking Distance where he becomes obsessed with his childhood. That's what I thought you said. So that's another good parallel, actually, both episodes. So so it's a Freudian listening to you.
Kick the can. I don't know why old people doing things, turning back the clock. Turn back the clock.
This guy's only 34, though, not the actor, but the character.
Yeah, but there's all these red flags, and to me, this is about the liberation of Virginia. She has come to this house to be rid of her crappy husband. He goes back in time. She's upset now because she did waste 12 years of her life with him. And presumably off camera, he just turns into a fetus and goes back inside of his mother's womb.
Yeah. Well, I assumed he was going to live as 10 years old now. I don't know.
Nope. I think he goes back in. I think he's going back in, man. If he gets 10 years old that quickly, he's just going back. He's going all the way back.
Not to go directly to a twist, but I assume people have watched the episode, they're listening. So
well, yeah,
what I wanted the kid to say was not, what was it? Go away, lady, but consider this a divorce. That's what I wanted him to say.
Consider this a divorce.
No, I want it in a Schwarzenegger voice, like in 1962.
I mean, my old lady voice did have a little bit of a German accent for no particular reason. I think it's just easier to do an old lady voice when you're saying German.
Digital filter?
Well, there were a lot of effects on it, but I also was just trying to sound like an old lady.
Yeah. Well, that's about
not necessarily succeeding, but and when I realized how long it was, I just powered through it. Screw it. Yeah, this is a good meat and potatoes episode. Like I said, it's sort of been done, but it's interesting to see this from the perspective of someone who has spent. I mean, like I said, yeah, I feel targeted. My mother is in her 80s. I'm unmarried. It's not entirely impossible that I would be something like married and then have to sell my mother's house. However, I was not coddled, and my mom would not want me to become a kid again.
I would.
So I don't entirely relate.
My parents still live in the house I was born in, and I haven't been there since 2010. So I would certainly walk in there and start obsessing over things. I mean, the vibe here is what? Oh, that was what I was going to say too. Like, I feel like this is a real vibes episode. Like, we've been here with this kind of thing before, but this is vibing in a distinct and creepy way that is very Twilight Zone. But in that respect, I think it is distinctive. Like, it has a different feel.
Well, it has the epilogue. Rod Serling does refer to Alex as her opponent, which I thought was very interesting.
And this may just be the wiki order, but and you know that's the thing. You watch '60s television. Here's that all-American guy. He's the star of the show. But this one is very much, and we'll work it out when we say who went and through the Twilight Zone stuff. But I mean, she's the star. She's the main character here. You know.
Yes, she is the main character, and yeah, he comes across as just impossible to deal with the entire time. And that's why I think this episode is about her being liberated, because they've been together for 12 years, right? And he just cannot like talk about, he can't really open up about things. He's stonewalling her. And he says, "No, we're not selling the house." Even though she has a guy there who's understandably frustrated, even though it kind of annoyed me that there was a bunch of filler about him taking a call from a secretary that lasted like 10 minutes. But anyway, aside from that, it is an interesting formula. And I don't know if I don't know if Matheson is wanted us to look at this like this man is a petulant man child.
Well, that's
And
one of the things, like we mentioned, you never, except for maybe some second unit or stock footage shots of a house, everything's inside the house, basically. So we
mm-hmm.
never meet Alex outside of the house.
Yeah.
Like, you watch this episode and you're like, why are these people even together? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because we're
she
seeing
seems,
this, like, here's the thing. Do you want to, is it well, obviously there's supernatural things. It's kind of like a Shining thing going on. It's just like, instead of like you
mm-hmm.
want alcohol, you want your mommy.
That is, yeah. And much like how I side with Kubrick against Stephen King, I think the guy is just always like this. But it may have been written with the intention that, oh, the house is making him like this, or
Well,
the
that
ghost of his mother is making him like this, even though she says she didn't do it. So that, I mean, that itself is interesting. I
well, that's
don't,
another comparison. Like one of the critiques on The Shining, which I mean, is that Jack Nicholson seems unhinged from the start, whereas
uh-huh.
this guy seems unhinged from the start. Obviously in The Shining, there's the Stephen King idea. Oh, he's holding it together, and then he falls apart. Whereas the Kubrick ones, like this, it's nah, he's already out there. When he
This is the
walks through
thing.
the stories, he's
Yeah.
already gone.
I like the idea. I like that Jack Nicholson looks unhinged in The Shining because
I do too.
to me, yeah, to me, most people, uh, I think it's this sort of this false narrative where a lot of times you hear from neighbors of a serial killer and they're like, "Oh, he never seemed like that." But for real, a lot of people you can tell. And the thing is that people say that they never would have guessed that Jack Nicholson would have killed his family because they weren't paying attention
I
or
mean, and
because they were
sometimes it's like,
afraid to do anything and then they want to absolve themselves of any responsibility for intervening. You know what I mean? It's like and that's why Stephen King was so insistent that it's an evil force that killed his family. As there was no child abuse in The Shining before the movie happened because Stephen King couldn't take responsibility for his own cocaine habit or alcohol habit, one of those two. Um, which is, I mean, that must be really hard to be extremely powerful and to say I am weak and I did a bunch of coke and made Maximum Overdrive and it sucked. But sometimes
the
you should do that.
trailer is a masterpiece, though. The
The
one that
trailer is a
stars Stephen
masterpiece.
King.
Yes, the first whatever 20 minutes of the film are amazing. But
Yeah. I just want to give Maximum Overdrive its due. If you watch the Stephen King
yeah,
narrated trailer, that's an absolute, 500-star masterpiece on a 5-star scale.
and and I like a lot of the trash adaptations of his films. And I'm not like saying cancel Stephen King or whatever, but it's like that's it's sort of telling that people don't a writer would probably not want to write something that reflected that made him feel bad about himself.
So do you feel this has a Kingish flavor to it? Is that what you're? I mean, obviously it's before he'd written anything that anyone had read, other than maybe like a school teacher. But
I'm not really. I mean, it feels Twilight Zone more than anything else to me. But I mean, I guess you could say that. I was just more thinking that it's a it's a rare subversion to see the man of the house be so flawed. and not be just a straight up. He's not a straight up villain.
Yeah, I'm
He's
not.
just
It's just
broken.
yeah, I'm not comparing this to a bunch of other episodes because it's derivative, but because it's a good time to look at themes. So we mentioned you mentioned long distance call, made me think of walking distance. Another one I would definitely attach to this as having kind of the same thing with a different outcome would be Nick of Time. Um, that's the first
Which one was
Shatner
that?
one. That's the
All
first
right,
Shatner one,
right.
and the demon fortune machine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
The lateness of the hour, I guess that is sort of family
yeah,
issues.
yeah, it's a little different, but
Mm.
here's what we were talking about how Virginia is definitely the star of the show, and then I was thinking back to Nick of Time. I was like, was William Shatner actually? It's been a little while since I watched it. It's been since I did the podcast, but I was like, is Shatner actually the star of that one? I guess he is, or am I just thinking that? Of course, that's a star. That's Shatner, and I don't know this lady, which
Mm.
in a way maybe breaks that episode a little bit, just because this guy became so famous. You lose the anonymity, whereas this guy, I mean, he's been in stuff, but he's not like I know who this actor is, so he's
Well,
anonymous.
in that episode, Shatner is freaking out, and in this episode, Virginia is freaking out, and Alex is not. He's basically turtling up. That's the whole thing, is that she is the star of this episode because she's doing all the acting and doing all the emoting and basically giving us the audience a surrogate character and telling us how we should feel about the situation, which is we feel terrible about it. And
Yeah,
then part of it is that she's it reframes. Early in the episode she talks so much about how happy she is to be married to him.
and she
And
sounds like
then
she means not a word of it.
yeah, or it's just something where it's a status thing, and then when that starts falling apart, it makes it that much. It's like the stakes are so high. she's she's losing the thing that she fought for. 12 years, probably a long time to be together without getting married, if you're intending to get married eventually. I personally, even I generally, I think people should really date for at least a few years before you get married. 12 years is a while, man. That's like a phase of your life, basically. Um,
There's well, we know the issues here,
and
probably, but
and also, yeah, and also everyone I know who's waited like that type of length of time to get married, they know each other really well and are really comfortable with each other when they get married because they just have settled into a routine. And this is not that
yeah.
at all.
And
So
Nick of Time, they were basically new. Some I don't know if they were newlyweds, but they were pretty newlywed, if not the day before. But yeah, the only thing is, all they have to do is get out of town, and they get out of town. And here,
yep.
all he has to do is walk out of the house, which as an adult,
Well,
I guess they're going to go to the zoo and get 2 ice creams at the end. But
I mean, he sort of has to, yeah, he has to sign paperwork and get rid of the house. How hard would it be for you to get rid of your childhood house?
well, that's why I was saying, like right now, I haven't been there in so long. I would definitely like if
Yeah.
someone like sign off now and never come back. I'm like, I wouldn't be game for that. I'd be like, man, I haven't been here in so long. Again, it seems he'd probably been there like in the past week, but
Yeah.
I would I eventually. I mean, yeah, I would get a little obsessed going in there, exploring a museum of my past. Like
Mhm.
15 years and past. So I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
definitely signing off. I would absolutely have that hesitation if someone were just forcing me to do it this second. But yeah,
I would drive the bulldozer that would destroy the house.
I'll do
I
that.
didn't have a great childhood. I didn't have a great childhood, so I'd actually, I've sort of gotten over it at this point. Like I don't feel those feelings anymore, but I used to just hate going there to visit my mom, even because I just did not have a great childhood.
I mean,
And it
I'll
was
drive the
not like it was her
bulldozer
fault, but
too. I'll drive the
yeah,
bulldozer too, not because I had a bad childhood, but just because if it's time to take
yeah,
it down, why not? That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
yeah. Okay,
Just
maybe, yeah,
bulldoze in a building.
maybe that's a bad metaphor. I would um sign. I would just, I'd get rid of it.
Yeah.
I would divest myself of that property
But I would definitely have
for
like
money.
I would want to obsess over it as a museum of my past for a bit. I guess is my point. So in that but he doesn't have that very temporal disconnect that I do, and he is obviously focused on Mother. Psycho,
Yeah.
there's another one. I mean, this guy's going to turn Norman Bates next week, so
Well, this is all set up for us, right? The he's a little old to be unmarried by 60 standards. They were been together for 12 years without getting married. He probably waited until his mother died to get married, even though we're not fed that information.
that's pretty strongly implied.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the things. This is, a great meat and potatoes episode. It's just a little character study, and we see just a tragic character, and he becomes a child, and then goes back up in there, man. That's it. he
So,
goes. He's gone.
I weirdly, it does seem to be one of the creepier twists somehow. I mean,
Yeah.
what is it about it? I guess it's just that this guy is completely gone now. I don't know.
The idea of on your wedding night, your spouse turns back into a child and leaves with their mother and says, "Get out of here. I don't need you anymore." And it's completely cold and then just leaves is upsetting. I mean, I'm not even close to married. The idea upsets me. That's scary because it's how many thrillers did we have in the 90s where it's like turns out your husband is a murderer. It's scary. It's a scary idea because if you don't know that person, then who do you know?
But like you said, it's like the emancipation. Like Virginia's going to take a good month or two to get over it. I'm sure it's a shock, but then she's probably going to be in a better place to continue with her life, not stuck with this mommy obsessed guy.
Hopefully, she inherits the house. I don't know how that works.
And she has such bitterness towards mom. It's like, I mean, how has this relation has it been a stop start one a lot? Maybe like how dysfunctional was it up to this point? I guess is a good question.
Well, yeah, and this episode wisely does not hammer that super hard because much like in Long Distance Call, you have the mom just being like your mother was a control freak, but you don't get a whole lot of that. You just get her, trying to murder their kid.
See, that one has the happy ending. Oh, they saved the kid in the end. Whereas this one is definitely like, yep, worst case scenario, in a paranormal way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it is a that being betrayed. It's almost worse, like being betrayed by your spouse, in that they start getting violent with you and you have to run from them. But like, just what is it they say that hate isn't the opposite of love? Indifference is. For your spouse to just be like, yeah, no, I don't need you anymore. I'm gonna go be a child and go to the zoo. That is terrifying in a way. It's like if you really would feel worthless, especially after spending 12 of the best years of your life in a relationship that must have been at least a little bit strained because you hate his mom already.
Maybe we should
it's like
use
most
that
people
prime time of your life. I have a feeling those aren't going to be the best years of her life.
That may be a little bit of a TV stereotype because almost everyone I know likes their in-laws at least a little bit, or pretends to. I guess.
My in-laws live in this house, so
Your in-laws are awesome. You tell them that. You tell them I said that. I hope they're listening. They don't. They probably don't listen.
No, I'm on headphones.
You mean I mean, listen. No, you don't. Do they listen to the podcast later?
No, they don't. Their English isn't that
great. Well,
or not.
This would be a bad way to learn English. That should be the tagline of the podcast.
A bad way to learn English. Yeah, sure. Why not? Would you eat the demon brownies?
Wait, demon brownies? Did I miss this?
She finds the freshly cooked brownies.
Oh, right.
Does she eat one of them?
I don't think she does.
Okay.
I think she really avoids everything.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking at my note. Don't eat the demon chocolates, but maybe that's because I was hungry and wanted to eat one of them.
I mean, yes, I do love some brownies, but yeah, it's then there was the vacuum that showed up.
Yeah. Oh, and my favorite thing actually is the picture of Mother, because
yeah,
I just like how she has it all over the house and just has the most disapproving face in the portrait.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's great. I mean, I'm not sure, but that might be my podcast episodes snapshot for this one.
Yeah, the more I talk about it, the more fun. I was maybe a little down on it for being so derivative of older stuff when I watched it, but the more I think about it, the more it is kind of fun.
It's derivative of other stuff, but it does some interesting stuff. It twists in a new way, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
So
the I've felt like the back half of the season hasn't been as strong as the first half, but I haven't watched everything. I've been trying furiously to catch up, and it's difficult because there's so many. But
yeah, I mean, I think that I've now watched all of season 3, and there's a couple. I agree the back half is not as good as the front half, but there's a little bit of a rebound bump in the last few. So that
yeah,
makes sense with a 36 episode season schedule. And we're 99 episodes into the Twilight Zone. So, it's pretty
yeah,
hard not to be a little derivative at this point. Sometimes it's too much.
that's
Sometimes like
that's just insane.
I've really seen
Yeah,
this episode
36
before
episodes in
and
a
you're doing
year.
it worse. Yeah. I've seen this
Yeah,
before and it's being done worse. That's the ones that we didn't like so much, I guess, in the back half. But this one's like
yeah,
definitely retreading some themes, but doing something interesting with them, I think.
yeah, and it's just simple enough to work. It's not. They're not trying to. They're not trying to do a bunch of stuff with it. Like the last one we talked about. What was that? Person or persons unknown. I think was the last one we talked about.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, where I thought that was the twist was just a mess because it was like two twists that didn't connect.
Yeah. Whereas this
Whereas
one
just
is
one,
this is
it's one twist that hits really hard and is out, and
like
that's
sometimes I say there's great episodes where the twist barely matters. And
yeah.
there's, maybe a really good twist, but the episode's kind of
Oh,
ham fisted. This is a pretty good episode with I'd say I think this is one of the better Twilight Zone twists,
well,
especially
there's like
recently.
what is it? It's a good life. What's the one with the evil kid? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one
that's
thing?
right.
Where that one, I don't think you guys were super into it when you did that episode, but to me, it's like the twist of that episode is in the beginning. Rod Serling shows up and says, "Here's the twist," and then you just sit with it. And that was a very brilliant move because that's a way to do it that's different.
Right.
It's almost the opposite of when like this twist is kind of cynical and stupid, or so you don't need a twist always because I know there are episodes we talked about there just kind of wasn't a twist where it's just you see a thing happen that's all messed up and that's it
Come back
really.
next week.
Okay. That's fine. It's much better to just because I mean think about M. Night Shyamalan where he started
What a
doing
twist.
well, it's like the movie he did in his early career that people like the best, aside from The Sixth Sense, which is just the thing that put him on the map, would be Unbreakable, which is just sort of the twist is the setup for the whole thing. Really, it's not.
I think everyone secretly likes Signs. Am I wrong?
Nope. A lot
Okay.
of people do not like Signs.
Okay.
But he got back to Split. There is something you could call a twist in it, but most of it is just here's a weird setup. Check out this weird setup, and you watch it play out, and that's really kind of a great way to do
No, I haven't seen a
sci-fi.
Shyamalan since The Village, to be honest. I got the Visit in my
Yeah.
Blu-ray folder here. I haven't watched it.
I'm told that The Visit is good, but I haven't watched it.
That's why I bought it for $1. I'll buy that for $1.
The Split is great, and Glass is stupid, unbelievably stupid, but also great.
Okay, that's I keep saying that's how I watched The Flash last year. I was like, that movie's terrible. Ezra Miller's not goodness, but I really had a good time watching it.
I I don't know if I even want to watch it. I sort of avoided it just to
I can't
not.
recommend it. It's not good, but I guess I was just in the mood for it when I put it on.
I'm weird about these things where it was marketed so heavily with Michael Keaton Batman, but to me it's like Tim Burton didn't direct it, so is it really Michael Keaton Batman? It's
No,
just sort of a
he's just there in that suit. It is more like
yeah.
more modern DC universe thing going on, I would say. But
Yeah, and also that Warner Brothers canned movies that may or may not have been better, but
But Keaton, I mean, can Keaton even be bad? So it's still worth it for that.
yeah, I mean, he was bad in that dumb Morbius scene, but that
Oh,
wasn't
I
his
didn't
fault.
see that. I didn't see that either. So
It
I heard
wasn't his
about it. I know what
fault.
you're talking about, but I haven't
I
seen it.
told you about it.
Oh,
It's,
oh, did you?
yeah, on the Upgrade podcast,
Okay.
many eons ago. But um, yeah, it's just sort of I don't want to support. And I did see Black Adam with my friend Chuck, who's guest on our other podcast before, and it was pretty bad. Um, it
I
was
didn't see
not. I
Black
just
Adam.
don't feel like giving Warner Brothers money for these things unless they're James Gunn things,
Right.
which soon enough will exist. But
Is anything really a
yeah,
sure thing anymore?
yeah, I still really theorize that they put James Gunn in there because everybody likes him, and they're gonna cut everything, and then basically James Gunn will be the guy who goes out and apologizes. They're just setting him up. It's like a Japanese businessman move type
It's your
thing,
fault
right?
now. Yeah.
Uh,
I've told you about the Japanese politician before, right? That
which
on that the best television apology I've seen.
I don't think so.
Okay, this is about 10 years ago, and some city official was caught using money to just keep going to the hot spring like 180 times that year, and he got caught, and he's on TV. And he could have just apologized for it, but he's just like kneeling and stop just like bawling on live TV because he had used public money to go to the onsen a bunch. It was
That's awesome.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do some questions on this one. Who in this
Oh,
episode goes into or through the Twilight Zone?
I have to say Alex went in the Twilight Zone and he never came back.
Yeah, I was about to say he gets lost in the Twilight Zone, but
Yes.
I do think Virginia is having the normal Twilight Zone experience here.
I think that she watches someone she cares about go into the Twilight Zone and can do nothing about it, and it feels like the Twilight Zone hurts her feelings. But I
Right,
don't
so
think
she
that
has to stare directly into the face of the Twilight Zone, which
Mhm.
in many episodes that is the person who we choose.
Well, yeah, if she tells anyone about this, I mean, she might end up in a mental hospital.
Yeah, she gets rightfully emotionally compromised during the episode.
Yeah,
So it's she feels it. That's why I'm talking again about like Nick of Time, right, where he experiences the Twilight Zone for a bit and leaves town, whereas this guy
yeah, he
doesn't,
escapes
and the
it.
wife has to deal with it too in both cases. So
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, I think
And
more so.
again, this is maybe a little bit of a Stephen King connection. We don't really know if that's actually his mother.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That's getting a little more Stephen King. I feel like in
Well,
a 25
we
minute
don't.
episode that's never expanded anything, it's fine to just assume that is his
I
mother.
think it's cool. I think it's cool that we don't really know that. Maybe you didn't think about that. I've definitely, it could be either that he manifested that thing,
Oh, you
or
mean the
that
lady at the
it's
top of the stairs?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
I'm
I
just
thought
saying
you were
it's
like
not.
saying that wasn't even his mother. I was like, that seems a little
Oh no, you mean like it was someone other woman?
Yeah.
No. I mean, it was the likeness of his mother, but it may not have been the actual ghost of his mother. It might have been something manifested by him, or it might be like a trickster demon.
Yeah, it's like spoiler for Voyager where Janeway meets her ghost
Uh-huh.
dad in the beyond, and that turns out to be an alien trying to drag her into his dimension to feed off her energy or something.
Exactly.
So there's that.
So yeah, maybe. And that episode might have been more interesting if it had been ambiguous who that guy was. But you know, still, yes, might have been something else. Might have been alien. Maybe it was poltergeist. Maybe it was just somebody in the Indian burial ground underneath the house. Maybe it was the secretary of the real estate guy died on the phone and then became that woman. I don't know. Anything could be anybody.
Um, but let's put the deserve question on both of them. Alex, does he deserve his fate? He steps pretty much into it like a full clip.
Yeah, yeah. I it's one of these things where that makes the episode better, that I don't want him to deserve it, but he totally does.
Yeah, he could have stepped away at like any moment. He just never
It would have
does.
been, yeah, just so easy. Just sell the damn house and leave. Go on your honeymoon, enjoy your life. And he just
Mm.
couldn't do it. So it's,
They
it's
weren't
like
gonna.
watching someone with a
I,
gambling problem just go right back to the slot machine. The slot machine pushes them out a window.
they didn't look like people who were
That
gonna
didn't
have a
happen.
very sexy honeymoon anyway.
Well,
But
definitely.
hey, you never know. You never know. So does Virginia deserve this?
No. Well,
Does she
no.
need this? Might be a follow-up question.
Maybe she needs it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want
because
to say like I want to say that you deserve what you get if you're with some like obstinate man child for 12 years, but we don't really know.
we
But
don't see him
also
outside of the
I don't
house.
want to victim blame in any case, because people can talk themselves into anything. So, if you're in a terrible relationship forever, then, it's
That
better
just
to
puts
get
this
out
into
than
high
to,
contrast. It's a high contrast episode,
yeah,
right? We only see Alex in
yeah,
this weird manic mode. We never see like
yeah,
normal Alex.
yeah. So like sunk cost should not be something that people have to pay for
Yes.
again. Like 12 years of her life is enough. She's suffered enough,
Right, right.
allegedly.
I mean, I
Unless they
get
were great. Unless if they were great, then she's suffering even more, I guess.
yeah. And also, yeah, whatever. But
I think
um,
that, society at this point in time was like, it's very important to be, it's maybe more important to be married than to be happy. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
So,
do wonder about the casting choice though, because it's like, I mean, both of them I think are in their 40s and look it, and they're not, they're 34. So when you see a woman who looks like in her mid 40s, you go, oh God, she wasted 12 minutes of her life. 34 is kind of like, yeah, you could. It's easier to pick up and do something
did
else
you
at
just say that
34.
she wasted 12 minutes of her life?
Maybe, but I meant years. Okay.
Okay. I mean, she did waste 12 minutes of her life talking to the
In this
real
house.
estate guy.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, half the episode. But
Oh.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, it's 1962 terms, but I'm like, you guys start over at 34. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it feels kind of worse here for some reason. It might
Well,
partly be the casting.
it's part of it is just that she's so excited to be married, so so excited to be rid of his mother's influence, which she is not.
Yes.
It's
I guess it's just as someone who
yeah.
is about to turn 45, I felt like both of these people are like my peers, if not a
Yeah.
little older. So
Yeah.
I had trouble just because the age they say kind of changes the situation a little bit as well. I think. I don't know.
I mean, they might have changed the script because
Like who was available
of something.
yeah, I
Maybe
don't
they
know.
changed the script because they thought it was too dark for them to be in their 40s. It
Yeah,
really might have been the case. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
personally, I it's easy for me to, with my modern
To me,
viewpoint, be
it's
like,
more
who
it's more
cares?
realistic to me. Like this guy was basically like just attached to mommy at the hip throughout his whole 20s, and finally in his 30s started to break out a little bit, and mom didn't like it, and yeah. That is darker where you have this period in his, and he could have been dating other people in his 20s, we don't know, but you kind of assume he probably wasn't.
12 years. If he's 34, 12 years means that they started when he was 22. So
Right, but if
you
he's
could assume college, 18 to 22, this relationship right after college.
that's where I'm
It feels
wondering.
mathematically tight. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm saying you say it's darker if they are in their 40s, because that kind of at least suggests that maybe this guy was a mama's boy all the way up to age 30, which like out of college and doing something else. But this is like, yeah, it darkens
Yeah,
the
mama's
episode.
boy all the way up till he's 46, and then turns into a boy after after he's with another 40 something for their entire
And
30s,
also
40s.
means in 1962 terms, not 2024 terms, that makes her already an old maid when they start dating, and the they are in their mid 40s version of the story.
Yep.
So
Or
again,
they were together for 24 years. Think about that. Maybe
not
the
getting
script is like,
married.
we've been together for 24 years, we finally got married because your mother finally died. That is,
That that would
pretty dark.
that would make it a little
Realist,
darker.
it's not unrealistic. That happens. It does happen. I don't think that many people turn into children and disappear, but the
They
people,
do and kick the can, don't they?
what do they say? Everyone has their own path. So, if you're listening to this and you feel any kind of way about being single or not being married or being divorced, then I'd say don't worry about it and just live your life because that's what you get. And definitely don't hesitate to sell your childhood home.
Yeah, I don't
Sell it
mean to
now.
like try. I'm not. I don't want to like stereotype or whatever with especially with Virginia. But I'm like, well,
Yeah.
some of those tropes just were baked into 1962 television. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that was supposed to be part of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a total mess. My life is in shambles, but it has nothing to do with me not being married or my mother. So, actually, my mother's helped me out a whole lot. I was in the hospital for pancreatitis, and she came every day to help me out and bring things.
Well, this
That
one
I'm
would
not a
too,
mama's boy.
but she'd look at you disapprovingly if this were your mother. She'd
Uh,
come, but
my
she'd look
my
disapproving at you.
my mom doesn't even look at me disapprovingly when I completely screw up my life and like go into debt. She doesn't worry about that. So I mean, that's pretty nice. She definitely wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe she's said some kind of harsh things about ex-girlfriends, but whatever. That was, that's just the people we're a passive aggressive people, and that just happens. It's
Okay,
not um
right.
it's not, it has
I could
nothing to
probably
do
say
with
I
that.
was harshing about an ex-girlfriend.
We all could. It's just
Yeah.
sort of one of those things. It's like, um, but
But hey, people can
yeah,
say harsh things about me. I mean, it goes everywhere, right?
I mean, people definitely say harsh things. People are probably saying harsh things about me right now. Um, but
People listening to this podcast screaming at you.
yep, yep. Like, why did you do that stupid intro? That sounded terrible. Yeah,
Any
that's what you sound like. Yeah.
any final thoughts on
Uh,
this one?
did we didn't do a tripometer yet?
Oh, we didn't do a triple meter. Good point. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got so much on the deserve discussion. I guess I forgot about that.
This is,
Triple meter it.
2.1.
Sure. That's a weird decimal.
Hmm. Well, I almost said 2.2 and I thought that was too high.
Oh,
2.1.
I'm willing to go higher. I'm willing to go to
Hmm.
3.5 because I felt like in the
Wow.
past 5 minutes, reality is kind of bending around them all. Like really
It's
subtly. I like subtle
yeah.
weirdness a lot. So,
It's very sad. I mean, right? um we were just discussing in a completely different podcast about how I was very upset by the Mork and Mindy episode where Mork shrank until he disappeared. This is
that's,
maybe a little bit of that. It's
yeah, he shrinks
shrink,
to half size at least and then disappears.
shrinks,
Well, then
yeah,
sends
shrinks
her
and tells
away.
you he doesn't need you anymore. Get out of here, and leaves.
See,
That
it's a
is,
bad trip, but I see.
yep,
And I'm again. I'm never trying to talk you into changing your score. I'm just saying my higher score is because I think that stuff's trippy. Uh,
yeah,
the subtle bending of reality, followed by a couple like a few subtle things, like the appliances are changing, followed by oh
mm-hmm.
crap, there's mom, followed by up, he's a boy now. I'm like,
Yep.
that's enough for me to give it. Like I'm not going 4 and up, right? But 3.5 seems reasonable for me.
Yeah, I think I was a little low on it because I've seen ghosts a lot in this series. And
Okay, so
I have even seen people turn into children even this season.
yes, you have.
So, you know,
I thought the
it's
reveals were done for both in this episode, personally, though. Like, even though we've seen it, these were, like effective reveals of those. So I was willing to go with it.
well, this is, I think, aside from the real estate guy diversion thing, was paced very well,
Yes. Yeah, that
which is
helps.
good. That helps a lot. Yeah.
A good manic
It's,
last couple minutes. I love that in a Twilight Zone where it takes its time and then the last few minutes kind of ratchets it up.
yeah, that's the thing to do. Because, yeah, kick the can where a man turns into a child did drag
He
through
baby
some of
now.
it. Yeah, it dragged a lot and then just sort of slammed you with the ending real quick,
Yeah.
which is
But
not
like you said, except for that
ideal.
conversation, this one's pretty well paced.
Yep. And
Go ahead.
I really thought, what's the Virginia's actor's name?
Phyllis
She's
Thaxton is something a little.
Phyllis Thaxton.
Hold on, I'm
Great, did a
actually double
great.
checking.
Okay.
Thaxter. I was close.
Dexter. Phyllis Thaxter, I think, did a great job, and her anguish really carried this to another level as well. Like, and the fact that she was acting opposite people who did not care
Yeah, and
worked
that she
really
does
well.
come into. She comes in basically as a 1962 stereotype woman, and then it
Mhm.
quickly evolves, which
Yeah.
is Again, yes, she definitely is. Well, and then mom, doesn't
Mhm.
really. So she didn't talk at all, does she? She's just standing
No.
there, and somehow, but that
Well,
was weirdly effective.
yeah, and she says it's not my doing, even if maybe it
Oh, she
was,
says that. Yes, yes, yes.
which is that is good. That's effective because that's another way of saying that basically,
This guy's
Virginia
gone.
says stuff, our love is more important than your love, and gives her a whole big long speech. And then the mom is just like, "Oh, this isn't me, this is him."
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, I don't want to play with you, old lady. I want to go to the zoo and eat pretzels and eat ice cream and drop the ice cream and take
Put
the
the
ice
ice
cream off
cream
the
in someone's
ground and put it
pocket,
in my." Yeah,
someone
exactly.
else's pocket, like in
Someone
Terminator.
else's pocket, and then ants will be in their pocket, and then I'll laugh. So basically, that works really well, because I mean, what's more upsetting than being upset is that when you're upset and everyone you talk to does not care or just leaves.
Yes, yes. She probably should find a good therapist now.
Yeah, good luck in 1962. You probably find a lobotomy easier than you
You
find
end
a
up jumping
therapist.
out the window.
Well, that I guess that happened off screen, but
That's
no, hopefully she's
1962 therapy. You jump out the window.
uh,
Well, actually, 1960.
hopefully,
That's when we did. No, maybe that was a 59er for that Twilight Zone episode.
yeah, maybe it's one of those things where you're like, hopefully she's okay, but also, if we weren't worried about her, then this wouldn't be the Twilight Zone, right?
Yes.
It's about people being destroyed.
And if you want to be destroyed, join us on Patreon at Podcastios, where we do lots of podcasts. You'll get extra stuff for Time Enough Podcast sometimes. Mark and I also talk about the TV show Space 1999 on Podcast 1999. Really good movies and really bad movies on Films and Filth. And you can hear other folks talking about video games. That's Luke Loves Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report, and the Game Show. Okay. Which actually I'm on soon again. If so,
oh, cool.
I will be there soon.
Are you being the quiz master?
Nope, I am one of the quizzies. And
Neat.
yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go get some ice cream. I think
Okay, I'm gonna go.
two ice creams. I don't
I'm
want to
gonna
play
go.
with you anymore. Go away, dude. Oh no, I just hit the
All right,
stop
that was a
button.
good place to cut.